Hi and welcome to the channel. Today we will unbox and benchmark this Intel ARC A750. I bought this for 12,500 pesos, which is definitely not bad. I find this interesting as it is in the same price point as the RX 6600. Anyway, it came in a bigger brown box with a padding, and inside that is this blue box. The box itself is pretty plain. Even behind, there's no marketing, which I actually prefer. There's nothing to nitpick. What is interesting here though is the system requirement. Basically, it requires resizable bar enabled. It's not really a requirement, but you'd lose around 30% FPS if it is disabled based on my experience with the A380. Anyway, opening the box. Upon opening, you'd see the GPU already, no anti-static bag. At the top, you'd see a thank you card with a sticker, just like how they do with processors. Underneath is a quick install guide. So anyway, here's the GPU itself. Obviously, it has two fans, and surprisingly no fan stop mode. It has covers for the PCIe and the output ports. As for the dimensions, I didn't find an official one from Intel's website, so let's measure it. It's around 265mm by 110mm, which is pretty much standard, and it is 2 slots thick. As for the output ports, it has 3 display ports and 1 HDMI. As for the power connector, it requires an 8-pin plus a 6-pin power connector as the total board power is 225 watts. There's also a classy lighting here. It has a nice looking backplate, however this is plastic and so there's no thermal benefit for this. While I actually like the look of the GPU, its lack of screws and seemingly a puzzle to tear down will make the maintenance of this card to be a nightmare in the future. Anyway, as for the temps while benchmarking FF15 for 30 minutes, the GPU temps averaged at 71.15 degrees Celsius with a max temp of 74 degrees Celsius. There were no hotspot temps, but there was a memory temp which averaged at 77.11 degrees Celsius with a max of 80 degrees Celsius. The fan speed had no percent representation and only just the RPM, and so I'm not sure how much can be tuned further as I didn't bother to use Intel software. Anyway, it averaged at 1,700 RPM with a max of 1,963 RPM. And as for the benchmarks, looking at the average FPS, the ARC A750 averaged at 103 FPS on 1080p and 79 FPS on 1440p. But without Rainbow Six Siege, which can skew the results, it averaged at 84 FPS on 1080p and 63 FPS on 1440p. As compared to the RX 6600 on 1080p, this is a neck-on-neck battle in terms of FPS, where sometimes the A750 is better and sometimes it is worse. At 1440p, the picture drastically changed where the RX 6600 is better in only one game and one where it almost tied. The rest, pretty much the A750 slays the 6600. As compared to the rest of the GPU, it shows that it should really be priced at $200 trying to beat the RX 6600. The RTX 3050 should be avoided at this point as it is more expensive than the 6600 and A750 with less performance. However, the A750 test did not end without issues. I only tested 10 games or programs in total, but it had issues with a few. Namely, in FF15 on 1080p and 1440p, for some reason, it had a gray background and the actual game was just a fraction of the screen. For FF14 on 1080p, it also didn't run properly in full screen. Overall, against the RX 6600, if you are only talking about FPS, then it still depends. What I tested here is the A750 with rebar enabled. So given that, yes, the A750 is marginally better if you account for its 1440p performance. But if your system is older and you don't have resizable bar enabled, then no. Expect it to be way worse that you'd lose a good 30% performance based on previous experience. So if you have rebar,
turn it on.
Intel ARC architecture is more sensitive to resizable bar.
Turn it on.
And
subjectively though, currently I consider Intel GPU drivers as beta only. Given the issues that I encountered, if you encountered it in a game, then that's game breaking and definitely not enjoyable. The drivers are still nowhere near AMD's clunky driver and let alone Nvidia's perceived stable driver. And in fairness to AMD, the RX 6600 driver is actually stable now. Given FPS and the subjective parameters, I'd choose the 6600 for now, especially if you only play on 1080p. But of course, feel free to choose the A750 for the best $200 1440p performance. performance. But given all that, it's fair to say that both of the $200 GPUs will not perform well with inefficient modern titles such as Hogwarts Legacy, Alan Wake 2, and Cities Skylines 2. As for the Intel's version of the GPU, for Filipinos, we don't have a choice as only Intel is selling this. But if you do have a choice, I'd say that this GPU will be hard to clean in the future, and I personally wouldn't recommend it for that matter alone. However, it really looks good. It's really one of the best looking GPU that I've seen. Anyway, that's it for this video. Do comment down below on what you think. Thanks for watching. Do like or dislike, and subscribe for more unboxing, SFF build, and benchmarks. Bye!